Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's finally here. It's update day. Tunnels of Terror. People are terrified. I think people are having fun. There's an update for Tunnels of Terror. Not only did they add all the new content that was promised, there's a bunch of new balance changes, some rather significant balance changes, indeed, that I will be talking about here in this update. Feel free to check the timestamps. This video will be timestamped to Oblivion and back. In particular, look at the end where I'll give my recount, my regaling of about an hour and a half or so of me beating up to the crossing on no hope mode with bots, going through the hives and things like that. I'll tell you my experience and how it felt and things like that in general, as well as a summary of the update itself. Let's break down right into this. I'm not going to be going over and reading absolutely everything, just doing the highlights, right? I'm just giving some little tidbits. One important thing to note, a disclaimer, is the Turtle Rock in the past has not been the most accurate in their patch notes, and the true is still same. Turtle Rock, can you please just give us accurate patch notes? If you're going to change stuff, it should be in the patch notes. So there are things in the patch notes, or I'm sorry, there are things not mentioned in the patch notes that have been changed, and rather significant ones, in particular for movement speed. And I imagine there's potentially things that are not, or that are in the patch notes but aren't actually been changed, which, I mean, stuff like that happens. So just keep in mind as a disclaimer, everything I'm talking about today is what I know up to this point, literally on the patch day. So things might change, there might be new things discovered in the next coming weeks and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. Very exciting time, though. So new feature, 7 Ridden Hives. You play through the campaign as normally, and as far as I can tell, at the end of every single mission, there was a hive at the end of up to the crossing, except for the crossing. The crossing did not have a hive at the end of it, but every single mission at the end of it had a hive as an option to go through. I think on I don't know how stagnant they're going to be or different, but for the most part, it was basically, do you want to play the last like 5-10 minutes of this mission, or roll a dice and go into a hive? Very, very cool. There's themes behind them. There's an inner hive and an outer hive, and I'm going to be making a video in the future that talks about in depth about all the hives and what's going on, and the inner hive and the outer hive and the loot risk reward sort of thing. We'll get really deep into it once we get more knowledge, but in general, basically you get to the end of a mission, and somewhere before the safe room you have a choice of going into a hive. All 4 players need to be there. You enter the hive, it completes your current mission, you get rewarded for everything that's been done. You get copper and supply points and things like that. It's as if you've entered the safe room, but you've entered the hive. Once you enter the hive, you're in another goopy safe room, but basically with a store that has reduced options in it. You make your purchases, and then you go through a mission that's in the Tunnels of Terror, basically. You have choices and things like that, where there's these powerful weapons and items for yourself, blah, blah, blah. 2 new cleaners, Hang and Charisse, we know about them. Haven't really played them too much yet, been playing Mahoffman. 3 new Warped Ridden, they got lots of spikies on them, we all know about that. Skull Totem supply point line, this is important. The new cards that have been released are locked behind a new currency, Skull Totem supply points, basically. So if you were hoarding up your supply points like me, waiting for the cards to be released, because I imagined that the cards were going to be intermingled amongst the roving, traveling supply lines. And I thought, like, that was going to be a nice way to potentially add to the grind of progression, forcing players to sort of like buy an entire line of things to get 1 card and buy entire lines to get future cards. Not the case. Entirely new resource to purchase the new cards. You need to do the Tunnels of Terror stuff in order to have access to the cards, which makes sense because it's part of the DLC content. If you didn't buy the DLC content, I guess it makes sense that you don't have access to getting those cards. So they're not in the normal supply line. You need to do the Tunnels of Terror and gather literal skulls, and then becomes money if you complete the mission with them in your possession. New weapons, I haven't seen any of them yet. New attachments, I've seen a couple of them. Some of them are kind of hit and miss. They're very interesting, and they cater to a particular playstyle. Very interesting, very cool stuff. New achievements. New difficulty, no hope mode, relentless, Ridden, blah, blah, blah. This is all sort of fluff. For the most part, it's like zombies are constantly sprinting. You have tons and tons of cards. I'll talk about my experience in No Hope, my hour-and-a-half gameplay at the very end of the video. Hopefully I remember to do that. 12 new player cards. I'm a little sad. I thought there was going to be more. There's just 12, and that's the 12 that they revealed to us already. 5 new director cards. There's some new cards that are insane. One that makes you slow when you have a bunch of money, which is just wild. It's so it's so wild. It's true. There's truly at least one new corruption card that you should dread seeing, and it's the greed card, the move slower with more money. Character skins, weapon skins, banners, unbolting attachments. So the way this works is attachments work exactly the same, but you now have the option to unbolt your weapon, which while in the safe room, you open up your inventory, you'll have an option that says that you want to spend 500 copper to basically unlock your weapon, which means that you can then, on that particular weapon, you can permanently take attachments on and off of it as you see fit. As you see fit. The new weaponsmith card reduces that cost, and then allows you to unbolt weapons while not in the safe room. So if you unbolt it in the safe room, once you're out and about, you can do whatever you want with that gun. But if you find a new gun and you want to tear the attachments off of it, you can pick it up, and if you have the weaponsmith card, you can unbolt it right then and there. For the most part, people are going crazy over this. People love this. I haven't had to unbolt anything once. I have a video about how to attachment, and I use my same exact strategy that I've always been, and I've had zero issue getting the attachments that I want onto the guns that I want. No problem at all. And I've been able to save my copper. So, you guys enjoy your stuff, but I'm going to sit on my ivory tower here and not spend that money. Quick play supply point incentive. If you're doing quick play, recruit veteran nightmare, you get bonuses for doing so, which is very cool. I love that. Back for Blood Steam Deck stuff. So here's some general updates here. You can read this as you see fit, but I'm going to read the highlights here that I've taken notes on. I'm going to go through it real fast. We have less alarm doors in general. Life added to nightmare mode to compensate for mom change, which we'll see later in the notes, but mom no longer gives a life. And now nightmare mode, you begin natively with a life. You do not get an extra life, though, in no hope mode. Removed time objectives. Move speed buffs and debuffs no longer affect sprint speed. This is huge. Huge. This is to redefine so much about the way that we have been strategizing our little foundation of movement speed. Kind of. It's to open up the door. It's going to force us to explore new options. It's not really game breaking in any way, but movement speed no longer affects your sprinting speed. So, and these are the area where cards have been changed, but it's not mentioned in the patch notes. But essentially, like, cross trainers won't make you sprint faster. It'll make you jog faster, but sprinting no longer affects it. A card will have to actually say +% sprint speed if you want to sprint faster, and that's huge. It's a huge deal for our ability to speed clutch in solo queue. They did stuff with catch-up weapons as far as, like, if you join late and things like that. All card purchases in the mission now cost 500, right? You know those cards that you can actually buy and it'll be like a random card that you may or may not have in your deck? It's a flat fee of 500 copper now. That's good news for some of the higher up cards that were like 800 copper. Bad news for some cheaper cards. There was a lot of cheap cards that were great. Just great. Like Cross Trainers was like 300 copper. It's just like a must buy, or maybe 200. There were some really cheap cards that were just must buys if you came across them. No longer the case. At the same time, though, standardizing it is really nice. It allows us to plan ahead and sort of economize around it. But also, I believe they've increased how often they spawn. I've been finding them way more often, which I love, because it gives a rogue-like sort of feel to the game. For every single run now, there's the potential of you going, oh man, we had this run and I found lucky pennies in the first room, which happened to me one time, and I bought it instantly, and we had so much money and blah blah blah. So A lot of potential for cool stories here as far as like having epic runs because you get really lucky with all of the extra card purchases that you are presented with. A temp health decay from 2 to 1.75. My understanding is that temporary health decays faster now. It would take you lose 1 point of health every 1.75 seconds, is my understanding now. Which I think makes sense because there's so many new temporary health buffs going on. Cold boys can no longer blow up cars. That's what I got for the general changes for the most part. General card updates. Vendors now have stat cards that can be purchased. So, you know those cards that you pick up, the vanilla folders, that just give you, like, plus ammo, plus fortune, or extra health? Some of those cards, like basic ammo, basic stamina, and health, I think are just, like, constantly... They're available now to purchase in the store at the beginning of a mission, along with the typical upgrades. But the basic stamina cards are cheaper now. They're only 1,000. I guess I should mention they're like the basic they're the basic cards, but they're team effects. But they're team effects in the vendor. Amped Up now gives 20 healing instead of 25 temporary health. This is a straight up nerf to Amped Up. 20 is less than 25, but also the healing, even though the healing is permanent, temporary health you're pretty much guaranteed to always get value out of for the most part. And if you can't, it's because you're at full health. Healing, though, with the way trauma can go sometimes, if you don't have any trauma resistance, there's potential for you not getting any value out of this healing. And plus, temporary health can block future trauma as well. So overall, temporary health, if you can just maintain it, is better than normal health. So this is a straight-up nerf to Amped Up, which is fair because Amped Up was totally crazy broken. Basic ammo now has 1% damage increase. Instead of giving you 10% ammo, it gives you 5% ammo increase. Basic stamina. It was supposed to always give you 10. Now it actually gives you 10 from what they say. It also gives you 2.5% stamina regen. Cool. The basic fortune card got increased to 50 copper. Instead of, I think it was 25 to 50 was a roll. So I'm assuming it's maybe 50 consistently now. Berserker now gives 5% sprint speed. Used to give, I think it's just bonus to it in general. Buff to Berserker to compensate for the movement speed nerf. Bomb Squad has been changed. It now gives team explosive damage 25%, team explosive resistance, and 1 extra frag grenade spawns per map. Very interesting. Money Grubbers can only be triggered 25 times in a given map. This is in response to adding the cost of Avarice card. The cost of Avarice is the most insane corruption card. This is the corruption card that you need to fear deeply. This card reduces your movement speed and your damage resistance for every 100 copper that you carry, and it seems to turn some of the supply crates that you encounter, or at least adds more supply crates to the mission that are just filled with copper, just filled with money. So you can get tons and tons of money if this corruption card shows up, but it's like high risk, high reward sort of thing because somebody, at least one player ends up maybe being the mule to carry all of the ammo, and they are just so slow. It's like they're crouch walking everywhere, but they're trying to sprint, and they get one shot by almost everything. It's wild. It's really cool. I love this card. Love how difficult it makes the game. That's some really interesting choices you have to make as far as economizing and risk reward. 10% damage resistance from 20. So Numb got nerfed. Wasn't Numb 15%? Anyways, Numb got nerfed. On your mark now gives 10% max ammo, so to 15%. And reload speed to 15 from 25. It makes sense. On your mark got nerfed. Run like hell in response to the movement speed nerfs. Now gives 15% sprint speed. Run like hell is looking for like a really interesting choice now. Spiky Bits got buffed, 20% damage resistance instead of 10%. Life insurance fixed to properly stack trauma resistance. I'm assuming that multiple players can have life insurance and the trauma resistance stacks, is my understanding. I don't know. Blighted Ridden reduced chance to apply 33% to 33% from 50%. Reduced pull duration to 6 seconds from 8. I don't know what the chance to apply means. Like how often the card comes up in any given mission. but the loss of these 2 seconds is really quite nice. A refactored Biohazard. Ridden deal 25% extra damage, 3 temporary health per kill, 100% bolstered health, so you can have tons of temporary health now. 200% increased decay rate to temporary health. Your temporary health is basically just draining. It's just draining, really. So, kind of cool. Biohazard, which was a good card to see. It was a corruption card that we were always happy to see because it just gave us lots of free health for the most part. It is now an issue. Not that it makes the game significantly harder, but you need to move with some pep in your step to some degree if you want to maintain your temporary health. Silence is Golden. Cleaners can no longer roll both the Silence is Golden objective and the Gloom/Lockdown Director cards. Thank you. That feels fair. You'd get you'd like have an entire map filled with alarm doors, and if you triggered any of them, you'd lose your 2,000 copper. Anyways, balance updates. Doc stats updated. Doc's team resistance. Doc's trauma resistance reduced to 20% from 25%. Bonus healing efficiency reduced to 15% to 20%. I mean, Doc's one of the best support characters. I think in conjunction now with Mom's changes as well, I think Doc sort of becomes in a way the most hands down best support character to some degree, but I think they really did some interesting stuff here with Mom to sort of create a different type of support character. Mom's ability. Mom's team passive is now 100% team revive, 20% slower team temp health decay. Very important now that temporary health has been basically reworked. No longer gives the plus team lives. The quick revive ability removed, replaced with the revive speed. Added a new ability. Mom grants her team 25% temporary health when a teammate is in-capped. So we still have some life synergy here. Very cool. But also, when the in-cap happens, everybody gets an old amped up. Very cool. And I think this is going to be a far more interesting character to build a support deck around, or just a deck in general, I think. So very, very interesting with the temporary health synergy, as well as still having some the more lives your team has, the more synergy you have with that as well. Team stamina. The stat purchase changed to plus 10 from 15%. Now has 5% stamina regen, and its cost got reduced to 1,000. Team health doesn't do anything extra, but cost got reduced to 1,000. Team ammo reduced to 1,000. Still has that plus 1% damage increase, though. Grenade accessory. So they reworked grenades to do more damage at the top end. So grenades used to go 650, 1,000, 1,250, 1,550. Now they do 800, 1,000, 1,250 at purple. And that 1,250 is right around the range where you'll start one-shotting tall boys and almost taking out bruisers. But you need purple grenades to get there. I think this is fair, because grenades were just... I mean, you guys have watched my videos. Like grenades were just the key to just dealing with so many problems in Back 4 Blood. Grenades also cost 175 now standard, which makes hazard pay, which hurts our hazard pay style gameplay, because you could, with hazard pay, you could buy 3 grenades right out the gate if you had double grenade pouch, things like that. But I think this all makes sense as far as the grenade goes. So grenade nerf all around. Barbed wire accessory. Reuse chance got increased. Used to have 0% at 1, now it's got 5%. Then it goes 7, 12, 15. So it got nerfed at the top end, but all razor wire begins with 5% reuse chance. Kind of interesting. Also, the price got increased to $250. I think this is fair because razor wire would just make some missions free to the point that it was boring. So boring to stand there on Barroom Blitz or the diner and just watch zombies do nothing. A flashbang accessory. The flash duration got rescaled. The top end goes 6, 7, 8, 9 now. Used to go 6, 8, 10, 12. So nerf on the duration. But the bonus damage got increased to 15, 20, 25, 30. Whereas before it was 5% less across the board. You know what I mean? Painkillers got nerfed. Temporary health rescaled to 35, 45, 55, 65. Used to be 5 more across the board. Price got increased to 150, so now pain pills are exactly the same as bandages, which I think adds more interesting choice as far as like, if you build a deck around pain pillows, then that makes sense. But you can also build a deck around bandages now and do some sort of maybe reuse chance bandage deck. So I think this pretty much puts pain pills on par with bandages. For the most part, pain pills were better than bandages in almost every way. Especially if you ran poultice, you just turn your pain pills into bandages. Well, for the most part, pain pills are still great. Weapon updates, added effects to the flashbang stuff, blah blah blah. Spawning updates, increase roaming special cooldown by 45 seconds. Essentially, this is all saying that when it comes to mutation spawning, they should be spawning less often, as well as limiting how many can be available. Bot updates. Sweet. Improved lockpicking, ping behavior for bots. Which I guess if you have the lockpick card, bots will ping stuff. I'm not entirely sure. Ridden AI updates. The pathing, the collision improvements made multiple campaign maps. Things are getting stuck less often. Reduced the Charred Ridden's fire effect to 1.75 meters from 6 to 2.65 meters. This is huge for melee characters because now, if you're good about backpedaling and swinging at the correct time, you can now get fire ridden with a melee weapon and not take any damage, which is huge. Reeker stumble resistance decreased by 25%. Reeker base health reduced to 400 from 500. Monstrous stinger predator attack reduced speed buff to 30% from 50%. So the big bad stinger shoots less fast. Blah, blah. Volatile Ridden no longer trigger death effects when killed by bots. Which means when bots kill the Volatile Ridden, they don't turn into a pool of acid. Which is actually quite nice because sometimes you're like setting up to melee a bunch of Ridden away from yourselves and the bots just shoot them on top of you. Quite annoying. Some swarm updates. I'll go through this real quick with my notes. You can only have one of each mutation now in a match of swarm, forcing players to diversify their team comp. Stingers can't shoot and jump now, or stingers can't shoot while in the air. Some cards got added, some cards got removed to the swarm card pool, and then some general buffs and nerfs, mostly to like buffs to bruisers, nerfs to tall boys, and some other stuff like that. Some UI fixes. Here we have increased speed of card draw and pre-round stuff. So when you're like picking your card and seeing what the corruption cards are, you can now spam through those things super fast, and it's quite nice. A burn card button now flashes to remind you that, hey, I'm here, please use me. Let's see here. Just some general fixes here. Nothing too crazy. A lot of things that like weren't working properly now fixed the things proper, like fixed an issue where the temporary health decay timer reset each time temp health was added to the player. This is actually a nerf to Buckshot Bruiser. But things like that. A bunch of little silly fixes. What I want to get to, though, is the bots. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but bots path properly to the player for healing now. Kind of. Sometimes the bot would like pull out a healing item. You'd be like, hey, let me heal you. But if you ran away, the bot would just stand there for a little bit and then just put it away. And then that would end up using the cooldown on the bot's healing accessory. The bots will try to pathfind to you a little bit better. But I still find that they stand there, but I find that if you like stop and start moving towards them, they'll also do like a little shuffle towards you as well. And then heal you. So I've been finding the bots healing myself as well as me and themselves more reliably now. A fix for Jim, where Jim wouldn't shoot Ridden, and I think this is part of like Jim would like run into zombies but not do anything about it, just take damage. I played with Jim bot; he definitely feels a little bit better. Bots will use healing cabinets more reliably now. Sometimes they just wouldn't do it, even if they are not on cooldown for it. I just want to say, just in general right now, the bots are feeling really good. Really, really, really good. They didn't really mention it here as far as I can tell, but the bots are actively shooting things and running around and watching your back and meleeing stuff away from them, and they don't really dodge mutations too well, but the bots are feeling way better right now. Way better right now. And then what's some other things here? I fixed a bug that made Ridden immune to stumble sometimes. That's quite nice. And there's just tons of stuff here. Like when you're on the bridge, address issues with leg hanging in various locations. Tons and tons of this little campaign bugs and fix like things like that, which I love and is great. So I'm going to talk about my experience. I have like an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of gameplay right now. You know, I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I had to stay home with the kid, and then I went to work tonight, so I'm just got back from work and then played literally from Resurgence all the way up to the Crossing. So my experience with no hope mode, playing with bots, getting all 15 cards. They're saying that nightmare mode is, or this is going no hope mode was going to be more difficult than the original nightmare mode. And personally, I don't feel it. It's definitely more crazy, but because you get all 15 of your cards right out of the gate, really not too much of an issue. I didn't really have too much of an issue going from Resurgence to the Crossing. I did a couple of hives. Only one of them I ended up doing, the inner hive. I did a hive. I did a hive on Resurgence, got out early. Then on Blood Tunnel I did the hive, and then did the extra portion of the hive. Cool. Right, and then I did on Pain Train, I did the hive, the extra portion of the hive, and then I did the inner hive, which is a little finale. I got the nursery. A lot of fun. Went through all of it. Got out to the Crossing, and then beat the Crossing no problem, and that's where I've left off. So I think for the most part, no hope mode is going to be more crazy. There's tons of cards. All of the zombies were sprinting constantly. There was things happening where the corruption card wasn't even there, but I would have fire zombies and blighted zombies, and there was no indication that I was going to have those things in the corruption cards. New zombies that reduce your healing. As far as I can tell, from Resurgence all the way to the end, zombies were sprinting. They were constantly sprinting. They were super fast, super snappy, very responsive. Honestly, it felt like almost like a totally different game. There's new audio for zombies walking around you, walking behind you, or walking in places that you can't see, really stompy feet sounds. I love the audio. They've done something with the audio here, but I couldn't, maybe I skipped over it, maybe I didn't see it. They made some really interesting audio changes that I think make it much easier to determine where zombies are in relation to you. And it just felt good. Everything felt really deep and crunchy, and it was kind of nice. As well as for mutations as well. The audio was changed for them. I had a much easier time hearing sleeper locations, so just in general, the audio I think has been feeling really, really good. And there's just tons of things going on in no hope mode, tons of corruption cards, and from Resurgence, Blood Tunnel, and Pain Train, all three of them had bosses in no hope mode. I got the Hag, and then I got Breaker. So kind of cool, really exciting. It was really fun to actually play it with the bots. Definitely more harder than Nightmare mode, but I think getting all 15 of our cards right away. I think in general, no hope mode is not going to be a big of an issue for coordinated teams to beat, like to absolutely crush it. Because just getting all 15 of your cards right away, as well as having so many extra bonus cards available to you for purchase as you're going through a mission. So long as you have literally an economy card, just one of them, it probably doesn't even matter. Really not a big deal. But actually tons and tons of fun. And the Blood Tunnel stuff, super fun. I will say, though, that the corruption crates or whatever, I can't remember what they're called now. The warped crates. Some of them are kind of jabates. Sometimes it's really not worth it to take the 20 points of trauma damage. I opened up every crate that I came across just to see, and I think of all the crates I opened, only one of them I was like, I guess that was kind of good. And it was like I opened up a crate, in the inner hive, and it gave me a purple vector. All the other guns are green, and it gave me, along with the purple vector, 2 legendary attachments, neither of which I took because they were garbage, and at least for what I was trying to do. And I got an extra basic card. I would say so far the loot in the hives a little underwhelming, but of course I was doing literally the first checkpoint of Act 1, so perhaps further down the line, maybe that loot gets better the deeper you're into a campaign, but I don't know. And of course, in the future, we'll do a more in-depth video on the hives once we know more. That was pretty much my experience with No Hope mode. Lots of fun. Totally doable with bots. So be prepared for that future content where I'll come out with guides and decks and team compositions for you to beat No Hope mode by yourself and with teammates, just like usual, just like I've done with Nightmare mode as well. So to summarize, I think this update is great. Super great. Super fun. Some interesting changes, some nerfs, some buffs. The game is way more dynamic. The game sounds better. The game feels better. I think this is really I think this is the Back 4 Blood that we were all sort of hoping to have on release. I think there's a lot more polish now on the UI as far as when you're looking at all the difficulties. They give you all the stats and what's actually being changed per difficulty, as well as the end of the mission menu is really nice and polished now. So this Back 4 Blood, I think, is in a really good place now with its polish, its gameplay. It feels fair now, at least in No Hope mode. It feels way more fair now. I mean, the fact that No Hope mode gives you all 15 cards at the start makes deck building, playing No Hope mode, different just in general from playing Nightmare mode, where you gain your cards over time. I don't know if No Hope mode is really going to be that much harder than Nightmare mode because of that change with the cards. Maybe bots are just too strong right now. Lots of good changes. I think overall, great update, great expansion. I think people are going to be very happy with it. At least I am so far. Thank you guys for watching. I've talked enough, and I will see you in the future.